Good evening and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another live broadcast of the Kev Baker Show coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. And it's going to be a really special broadcast tonight right here on tfrlive.com. Now, don't forget, tell all your friends, your family, your colleagues all about TFR. Get them over here and let's help to get this network to the next level again. And it's with guests like I have got tonight that we are surely going to go to the next level. Because tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined by a good friend and a returning guest. His name is Ben Emlyn-Jones, and for any of you tuning in for the first time, you are in for a rare treat indeed, because Ben comes on here once a month, and just like me, he likes to cover a plethora of topics. Get a load of this, because he's the man behind HPANWO, and that's HPANWO. Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. And it's a website dedicated to the latest news, views and reviews from the world of government cover-ups, ghosts, UFOs, hospital porters, paranormal investigation, cryptozoology, hidden knowledge, forbidden history, archaeology, chemtrails and so much more. He's just back from Denmark, having spoken at an event over there. And he's here live with us tonight on KBS. Ben, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Kev. It's great to be back on the show yet again.
Well, it's great to have you here, Ben, because we hook up once a month. And you would think maybe from time to time there wouldn't be enough for us to talk about, right? We talk about all the famous cases. We go historic when it comes to UFOs, the paranormal. But in the times we're living, a month is a heck of a long time. And since we last spoke, something I'd love to get your opinion on is this lunatic Prince Philip, the car crash that he had just recently. Now, we've not had a chance to discuss this yet. It would be wrong if we didn't, because we're quite outspoken with our feelings about the royal family. So what's your take on crazy Philip?
Well, this is a really remarkable event because Prince Philip, who is 97, apparently, although who knows how old he really is.
197.
Yeah. He's been involved in a road traffic accident. And this was in Norfolk. It's not far from Sandringham House, which is one of the Queen's official residences. And she's got about 6 or 7 of those. But she actually did something strange. He was driving along the road. He was coming out of a junction onto the A419 in Norfolk, and some incident happened in which he struck a Kia hatchback. Now, we don't know exactly what the details were because there seems to have been very little investigation. It's almost like Diana's car in that tunnel thing again. Although this time, luckily, there were no fatalities. There were 2 women in the hatchback and a 9-month-old baby. The baby was unhurt, luckily. One of the women broke her wrist, another one was badly cut. But Prince Philip's car seemed to come a lot worse off. If you look at the pictures, his Range Rover or Land Rover that he was driving was much more badly damaged. And according to a witness, his car tumbled and careened across the road. It ended up in a ditch on its side. Prince Philip was completely unharmed, despite his advanced age and the severity of the crash. He went to his doctor just as a precaution, and then was sent straight home. Since then, the lady with the broken wrist has been interviewed by the newspaper. She's not well. I don't know if she has now, but it took at the time I read this report, which is about a week after the crash. She'd not been contacted by anyone from the palace to apologise or to inquire into her well-being. At the same time, Prince Philip was not subject to any questioning or investigation. His licence was not suspended. In fact, he was driving the next day. So, that's a very odd thing, Kev? You know, it made me feel. Well, there's several different issues here. I mean, the one is that it seems there's one rule for us ordinary people, the sheeple, whatever they call us in their derogatory way, and for our rulers, there's another rule. So they have different standards. They're subject to different regulations under the law, and so I think this is an illustration of the attitude of these people in the royal family. That's the Illuminati bloodlines, whatever they're called, and the people they rule. They obviously have a very low opinion of us, and in fact, I think they probably just regard us as one more species of farm animal. They do not regard themselves as the same species as us, and indeed, maybe they're not. That's a big subject, but so that made me angry. That sort of particularly, and I hope that the people who were hurt by this, I hope the lady with the broken arm has made a full recovery now, and the other lady as well. And I think Prince Philip really needs to put his car away and get a mobility scooter like most other men his age.
Absolutely, dude. I couldn't agree more with you there. And what is it with this guy? Has he got like 9 lives or something like that? And this here, I mean, this just shows the contempt that they hold all of us in. This was 8 hours ago. This was published on Hello. And for anyone out there, that's a very mainstream kind of publication, very much aimed at your kind of average viewer. And it says here, see Prince Philip's letter thanking fans following his horrific car accident. And this is the kind of way these people act. And it was like not even 24 hours after this crash, Ben, that he's taken delivery of a brand new Range Rover and nothing to see here. I was saying to people, you can hardly expect a fair investigation when it's Her Majesty's police force investigating Her Majesty's lover.
It's kind of like the word conflict of interests come to mind, definitely. And there's a few other strange things associated with this. Now, the area around Sandringham House has a dark reputation. And I mean, I can't go into too many details here, but I know someone who lives nearby who has had alien contact. There was also the strange case of the Sandringham Battalion. Now, this admittedly did not happen at the Sandringham estate, but there was an army unit based there in 1915 that was sent to the Dardanelles campaign in the Great War, and they disappeared, all of them. Several hundred guys just vanished. Now, in war, people go missing. There's a such thing as missing in action, and occasionally bodies turn up and they're the unknown soldier, and sometimes they get a grave.
If you're
other
lucky.
times they're never seen again.
Yeah, if you're lucky, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of the Sandringham Battalion, this entire unit vanished. It's extremely rare for such a large number of troops to vanish at the same time in the same place and all be part of the same unit. No one knows what happened to them, but the association with Sandringham House and the fact that my friend Ellis Taylor has reported strange experiences near that area as well, which include encounters with kind of men in black type figures and some strange vehicles, including a strange van. He saw a van with the word Repco on the side. I don't know if that refers to any particular type of animal.
Don't get me started on that, Ben. you know you don't want to get me started there.
I know, but there's a phrase: the devil looks after his own, and the royal family do seem to have strangely fortuitous, I would say. Now, not all royal families are fortuitous. I mean, several of them have been wiped out. I mean, like the French royal family, the Russian royal family, etc. But this particular bloodline and this particular generation of the royals does seem to be extraordinarily lucky. I mean, one of their members, a very troublesome woman, just happened to die at a convenient time in a Paris tunnel, and we've talked about that on previous shows. They don't seem to have suffered any major illnesses. They've all lived to a ripe old age. The Queen Mother was, 101. The Queen is now, God knows how old. Prince Philip, of course, 97. And they don't seem to have suffered anything such as birth defects or complications in childbirth and things like that. I mean, touch wood. I wouldn't wish that on them. I do wish
I'm the same as you,
Harry and Meghan all the best. Yep. Harry and Meghan having a baby. Good luck.
I'm the same as you. Despite the absolute hatred I have for these people, I would never wish that kind of thing on them. But Harry and Meghan, I find it quite funny because obviously there's a bit of a kind of public spat between him and William and Kate and Meghan. And I still maintain, out of all of them, Harry is the most real, the most like the people, shall we say, out of all of them. There's a reason for that, right? Because his father isn't even Charles.
Well, exactly. He is part of that Ben Sinister element that the royals are sometimes affected with. Now, these people, obviously, because I think they can afford it with him. Otherwise, they'd probably just kill him.
He's a wild card, man.
Yeah, the reason because he has mixed blood, he's not pure Illuminati. His father, James Hewitt, is human. But he's obviously being allowed to live his life. At the moment, he's being allowed to stay alive. He's being allowed to. He had a royal wedding and everything like that. He's been treated. They're not coming clean about anything, and they're not killing him off. And yeah, maybe his human side is because of his lineage, and that could be it. At any rate, I mean, I do hope he'll be all right. Him and his kid will be all right, and Meghan. I'd wonder about Meghan, though. I mean, Meghan will have a. I do fear for her safety for reasons, obvious reasons. If it becomes a liability to them, then she had better be careful where she drives and avoid any tunnels in Paris and things like that. So we'll see what happens anyway. But good luck to them with the baby and everything. Good luck to them.
Absolutely. Now, Ben, I was saying in opening, you're just back from your first kind of foreign adventure, right? You were speaking over in Denmark. Talk to us about that, dude.
Yeah, I was invited by the group UFO Denmark to speak at one of their events. Now they've organised several large conferences. This was just a Saturday afternoon event in Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, and they invited me to go and speak there. So I travelled to Denmark and met up with people like Pia and Carsten, who are these who basically run the group together with a few other people. I don't know exactly how it works, which one of them's chairman, one of them's deputy chairman, but they asked me to come and do a little talk. So I did a talk with a it was actually a lecture. I changed the name of it. I was originally going to call it UFOs, British cases less well known but equally important. I changed it to Kingdom of UFOs because I thought it was a bit more catchy. But I basically did discuss several UFO cases which I thought most of the people will have never heard of. And certainly in Denmark, most of the people in the audience had never heard of many of the cases I spoke about, and not one of them had heard of all of them. So I decided that I would actually go to Denmark and maybe give an international flavour to some of the less well-known cases. And I got a feeling that I ruffled a few feathers because I can't prove this, but I had a very strange phone call a week before I left. A very strange phone call indeed. Now I have an ex-directory number, so my landline. I live in a house with two other guys, but I'm the one who usually uses it. And only about 20 people know my phone number, and they're all people I know and trust. The other guys who live with me, I know a few of their friends and family know it, but most of them live in the Sudan. So I was basically, when some guy phoned me up, I was just sitting there minding my own business. Phone rings. I pick it up, and there's this voice on the end, a very deep, sort of posh voice like that. And he's not threatening, he's not intimidating or anything like that, but he just advised me not to talk about one of the cases I was going to talk about in Denmark. And I said, "Who are you? Who are you?" And he just put the phone down. And
wow.
That I think is very odd. So anyway, I went to Denmark and I spoke about the case this guy hinted in a passive-aggressive way that I shouldn't speak about, and nothing happened. I wasn't stopped at customs, I wasn't stopped at air security or anything like that. I got on the plane without any trouble. So the deed is done. I'm not going to alter my repertoire just because of an anonymous phone call, but I do wonder who that person was, how he got my number, and why he didn't want me talking about that case.
So what case was it, dude? You know I'm going to have to ask you that. What one was it?
It is the Penta case. I think we may have discussed this on a previous show, but it's never been talked about outside of the UK until the event last Saturday.
Well, just imagine we've got new listeners here, so give us the highlights, give us the kind of bullet points, because I really want to get into this case, because this is intriguing, the fact that this has kind of brought you heat, as I would call it.
It's very, very strange. Now, this is quite a recent case. In fact, it was actually just 3 years old, February 2016. It was in South Wales at a place called Penta, which is a little village north of Cardiff, where a group of local people were concerned because there was a large number of aircraft flying over the house, day in, day out, for about 3 days. Very low flying aircraft, helicopters, jet aircraft, propeller aircraft, going backwards and forwards the whole time, and no one seemed to know why. The police didn't know. They called a couple of numbers, no one seemed to know. And then one night they were out watching these aircraft because they just couldn't sleep because the noise of this aircraft was keeping people awake. And a red light appeared in the sky, and they ran out into a lane at the back by a farmer's field to get a better look of it. And this red light turned into a row of red lights, and eventually a strange object materialized, an enormous object. One of the witnesses, Kaz Clark, estimates that it was several hundred feet across. triangular or pyramidal in shape, quite close to the ground. Indeed, it left some kind of imprint on the ground afterwards, including it killed a couple of trees and things like that. This lasted about 2 minutes, and it disappeared. At the same time, there was an explosion in a nearby place called Llantrisant, a few miles away, and an area of the woodlands was cleared. Some trees were cut down. Gary Jones, the field researcher who investigated this, believes that something crashed, some unknown object crashed in these woods near Llantrisant. And there were some strange people hanging around after the event actually took place. In fact, a couple of days after the event took place, a group of people, about 20 people, all wearing white boiler suits and red jackets, moved into a field near the place where the UFO appeared and set up tents. And they started, they acted like a police forensics team, searching the ground and everything. Like, they had several Land Rovers and other vehicles with them. Strange thing was, a couple of them were armed. And that's what unnerved Kaz, because she was walking her dog around there one day. Well, firstly, she saw they had a big guard dog, and she picked her little dog up so it wouldn't get hurt. And she noticed that a couple of these guys had rifles and pistols and things like that.
And of course, over here in the UK, I mean, people in the US, they might not think anything untoward to that, but that's quite rare over here. It's not exactly an everyday occurrence where you see even armed police or things like that. So that is quite, again, suspicious in itself. And yeah, I would imagine, that there has to be, and I'm not saying that this is the one smoking gun case, but let's not be naive, Ben. There must be military units out there that we don't know about that are tasked with these kind of retrievals, because any alien object, be it from space or from the Russians or somewhere else, you'd have to send a team out there to collect this evidence, right?
That's the interesting thing. And what's more, I believe that this was some kind of special secret government department that was sent out. And what's interesting is the way they arrived so quickly, the way they set everything up so quickly and seemed to know what they were doing. This was not just something that was assembled ad hoc for this particular event. This was an existing cadre of people who knew what they were doing, which means they've done this sort of thing before. So I reckon you're right, Kev. This is an existing unit of operatives within the government who are in some way regularly doing this sort of thing. They've been established specifically to deal with UFO cases.
And you get a phone call over this one. Out of all the things that you've spoke about on here, on multiple other shows, at venues around the UK and now abroad, this is the one case that brings you that phone call.
It's odd. I mean, I know it's about this particular case. They didn't actually say, don't talk about the Penta case when you go to Denmark. This man just said, he talked about Kaz Clark, one of the witnesses, and he just said, I advise you to have nothing more to do with Kaz Clark. She's a liar and a con woman. And I just said, who are you? And he says, that doesn't matter. Just a bit of friendly advice. Stay away from Kaz Clark. And I knew he was doing this. And I think this phone call happened the day after I sent my slides to the organisers of the event by email. And I wonder if someone else read the email and thought we better try and discourage this person from talking about this case. I think they didn't want this case going international.
It's quite funny, because last night on the show, we brought up the subject in general of the Men in Black. And of course, when you talk about something like this, what automatically comes to my mind is Men in Black. Now, the Men in Black, more of a kind of US phenomenon, I would say. But it does happen over here as well. We've got our own kind of Men in Black, right?
Yes, indeed. I mean, the Men in Black, there's two main schools of thought when it comes to Men in Black. Probably both are correct, and we're dealing with two different phenomena. One is that these are government agents who actually are sent in to basically silence UFO witnesses and get information and things like that. And the other is that the Men in Black are actually not human at all, and they are in some way associated with the UFO phenomenon. And I think both are probably correct, as I say. But they do. People in this situation, this always happens. Kaz herself has had numerous strange phone calls. She's had people following around. She's been contacted by people on Facebook and things like that who asked to talk to her, join UFO groups, and then they disappear as soon as she's been in touch with them and things like that. And so this event is getting attention, and people who talk about it, like I do, I made a video documentary about this case, are also getting attention. So that to me makes it more credible. I mean, they can't. they can't pretend this is just nonsense if the government are continuously looking into it, and all kinds of strange things happen all the time. It's like a Project Blue Book. The Project Blue Book began in its previous forms. 1947. It ran until 1969. There's been others since, like the T-tip, the A-tip. And they keep coming out saying, look, it's nothing. UFOs don't exist. It's all mistaken identity. It's all rubbish. And we're going to prove it by setting up another investigation to do this with. I mean, come off it, guys. I mean, imagine if the government set up a Santa Claus investigation department. All right, how would it really last for all that time and have such a big budget? And
remember
have so
Obama?
Many people working on.
Remember Obama?
It's real.
Obama actually signed the executive order. Remember that NORAD was to track Santa as it worked its way across the US. That's the times that we're living in, dude. But you mentioned Project Blue Book there, right? Now, I've not checked it out yet myself. I've got it on my recorder. But there's a new TV show on history, I believe. Have you been checking that out, Ben? Talk to us. What's that like?
I have. It is excellent. It's a lot better than I expected it to be. Now, Project Blue Book is something real. It's the longest-lasting and most successful incarnation of the various official government UFO projects to deal with the UFO phenomenon. And it began in 1947, like I say, Project Sign, Project Grudge. Project Blue Book began in 1952 and lasted until 1969. Now, what's interesting about Project Blue Book, it's in terms of its history, is it appears to have been a public face of the government's UFO investigation, but it was also part of the cover-up, because a lot of the people who were involved, such as Captain Edward Ruppelt, were continuously frustrated by people higher up telling him, he wanted to investigate things properly, and they were basically saying, look, just close that case, write the report, close the case. We've got an explanation. And he says, no, this explanation's not real. And I know it is. Just write the report, close the case. And the Project Blue Book TV series kind of goes into this area very, very much. It's not just a history of the actual real event. It's been embellished in terms of fiction, but that's exactly what we need, because that exactly tells the truth about what was going on. They're real people. A lot of the characters in it are real people, such as J. Allen Hynek, who's the central character. He is the principal investigator for Project Blue Book. He's an astronomer, so he's brought in especially to do this by the government. And he has a kind of sidekick, and they go around investigating people and things like that. But Hynek, of course, started out as very much a skeptic, and he became a believer through weight of evidence. The thing about it was, he was constantly frustrated. Like Ruppelt, he was constantly frustrated at every turn by other people within the organization and higher up, basically saying to him, hang on, look, we've got an explanation for that. It's just a weather balloon. Hynek says, no, look, we have another
swamp gas, Ben, it's swamp gas.
Swamp gas and things like that. And they say, no, Alan, we closed the case, okay? It's been explained. And it's pretty obvious this is what they wanted to do. This is what the government wanted Project Blue Book for. It was basically an exercise in distraction and downplaying for the purposes of the American public. Many other countries have had similar things, including the official UFO project, I think, in Britain.
Well, what do we make of the A-tip? You mentioned that as well, and of course that came blasting onto the scene, like maybe last Christmas, 2 Christmases ago, sorry, and it kind of set the whole internet alight. They kind of joined forces with the To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge, that crew there. But for me, it's almost as if that whole psyop, it's almost kind of faded out. Totally.
I mean, literally, when it first came out, it was very exciting because there was all kinds of revelations. Of course, this was a complete contradiction to the US government's previous position because of the Disclosure Petition 2, organised by Grant Cameron, which the government actually stated that since 1969 and the closure of Project Blue Book, they have had no actual official positions on UFOs other than what that was issued by the Condon Report, which is it's all mistaken identity and hoaxes, etc. Now, then they admitted that they, from 2007 to 2012, that they had a project which cost £22 million, organised by a senator, had Bob Bigelow involved, things like this. And that's probably just one of the projects they had. I mean, they probably had others as well they haven't admitted yet. So it's pretty obvious that UFO investigation has continued. They just haven't talked about it. Now, it began really with enormous excitement, like you said, Kev. And it was very heady. I remember when it first came out, we thought this might be a disclosure.
Hold that thought, Ben. Hold that thought, because we're going to the break. We are back and we are live, and I've got my special guest here with me, Ben Emlyn-Jones. Now, Ben, you've got so many different websites, places where people can hear you, see you. Give it all a shout out, my friend. Where can people keep in touch with Big Ben?
Well, the best thing to do is go to my news site, hapanwo-voice.blogspot.co.uk. HPANWO stands for Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. That gives you links to all my other websites, my YouTube channel, radio shows like yourself. I have a radio show. And my books, Roswell Rising, A Novel of Disclosure, and its 2 sequels, because it's all about UFOs and crash retrievals and exopolitics and things like that. If you're interested in those subjects, you will love these books. So check those out.
And that's kind of where we left off before the break, right? Crash retrievals, reports, investigations, all the good stuff, Ben.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this really great series, which is very, very good because it's much more than just a history of Project Blue Book. It's a fictionalized account of it. So it's rather like my own books. It's sort of telling a story about a real subject.
I like that kind of how would you call it? Faction. A mixture of fact and fiction. I think it's a good way of getting a story across. Very
much so, and like George Orwell, 1984, things like that. Faction, that's a good term. I'll remember that.
It's a good one.
But it's a good one. But it explains it in this particular series. What you have is you have a cover-up, and it's there's no doubt about it. This is made very clear to the viewer that. The main character, J. Allen Hynek, who was a real person, as I was explaining before the break, is investigating. He and his sidekick are going around investigating UFOs, whereas it turns out his sidekick knows more about what's going on and is more in tune with the cover-up, and he himself has been told by his commanding officers, you're in big trouble if you don't shut these cases down. Our job is to reassure the public, which means lying to the public and telling them it's all just swamp gas. Hynek is he's basically being a bit more of a wild card. He doesn't know as much. He's not had these instructions. And he's trying to be intellectually honest. He's trying to deal with cases as he sees them according to the evidence. And his sidekick and the other people within the organization are trying to thwart him. And then there's scenes when Hynek's not around where you see unequivocally that UFOs are not only real, but they are being covered up by the government. So this is far more than was ever officially involved in the real history of Project Blue Book. I do recommend this series. It's still running now, in fact.
I'm definitely going to be checking this out. Now, where does something like Majestic 12 fit in with all this stuff?
Majestic 12 is an alleged organization which is actually organizing this from the Roswell incident onwards. It's a secret government organization, perhaps similar to the red-jacketed people that Kaz Clark saw in South Wales. Majestic 12 was revealed when some strange documents were sent to someone called Jamie Chanderay in 1986. Now, these were like microfilms of documents. They weren't the originals. However, we can get enough details from the documents to know that they are extremely well put together. If it's a hoax, it's the best hoax ever because they have they were typed. You can see that they were typed on a Remington 260 typewriter. Now, in the 1980s, there were only 5 of those left in the world, and they were all in museums. So, in 1947, they were regularly used in almost every office in the country. So, the person who faked these documents supposedly managed to get hold of this particular typewriter, as Bill Wood, the investigator, has found out. But they talk about basically like that Roswell was real. The people are being lied to, and there's this organization called the Majestic 12, which features a number of people, including some quite well-known scientists and others, to keep this quiet and to disinform the public, to suppress and disinform this information. Well, if that is the case, then it's what we would expect. When you look at the behavior of the government, which we can see, as I explained, Project Blue Book being covered up, strange things happening when UFOs appear. It's exactly what we would expect to see if we were actually being visited by aliens and the government didn't want us to know. If, hypothetically, that was going on, we would see these things happening, and lo and behold, we do see them happening. Therefore, I think we have to conclude the most likely explanation is we are being visited by aliens.
Well, I really hope 2019 brings us more facts about the alien kind of cover-up that's been going on. I'm not very optimistic, though, because it just feels like more of the same. And you know, there's so much disinfo out there now, Ben. We've spoke about this before. It's really hard. It's really hard to get to the real kind of juicy bits, the facts within ufology these days.
Yeah, I mean, 2018 generally was a bad year. We had, after the enormously amazing explosion of excitement over the To the Stars Academy and the ATIP, it then just seems to have petered out. And really, they've got a merchandise store open. You can pick up a To the Stars Academy T-shirt and things like that. But as far as actual new revelations, I mean, I'm on their mailing list and they send me regular updates.
Same here.
But not really anything significant has happened. It seems to have gone quiet and stagnated.
I think they'd raised something like $2 million on their GoFundMe as well. $2 million for what?
I mean, I do hope that we do get another breakthrough from TTSA, because they're already saying. I mean, Tom DeLonge was on with Joe Rogan on his show a couple of months ago, and he was saying, there's a lot coming down the pipeline. There's a lot. We just got to wait, and it's coming. And I thought, okay, well, we'll wait, but for how much patience do we have? Let's get it done. And there's other things as well on top of the TTSA business, and we've discussed before the issue over Larry Warren and the confusion and the anger that's being sown over that. But luckily, this 2019 is going to be the year of Capel Green. Yes. The release of the Capel Green movie. This is a documentary which should hopefully put all this nonsense to bed. It's a brand new documentary about the Rendlesham Forest incident. I know it's taken a long time to make, but the project has expanded, as is often happens in the world of cinema. So people have criticised it for that, saying, it was supposed to come out 2 years ago. I know, but the filmmakers have had extra work to do. But they now are in a situation where they are editing and post-producing. And the 1st of May Day, I think that's good luck and auspicious, is going to be the premiere. And I'm very much looking forward to that. I do hope that 2019 will be a better year than 2018. I hope that we will get more news from TTSA, which will lead me to believe that it is for real. And it is going to, maybe there'll be more videos, hopefully like the Tic Tac footage, or hopefully even more than that. So, because it's very depressing when this sort of thing happens, Kev. It really is.
I think Capel Green has got the potential to be a game changer. I mean, me and you have both spoke to Gary Heseltine off air about things that we can't talk about on air, because this is just such a big project. And to say it's going to take UFO documentaries to the next level, I think probably is an understatement. Because
absolutely. I mean, everybody who thinks that the RFI, the Rendlesham Forest incident, has just been done to death and there's nothing more to be talked about is wrong. There's a massive amount of new information coming out, new witness testimony, new documents, new evidence, new interviews with Larry Warren, a polygraph test as well. And this film's going to be, I think it's going to be over 2 hours, Now, you don't make a 2-hour movie about a completely irrelevant dead case. So Capel Green, I think, is going to be a game changer. I'm involved. I'm actually featured in it myself. I've been interviewed for it. I don't know if I'll make the final cut, but it's going to be a vindication as well for all the people who have been who've said such horrible things about Larry Warren, and their behaviour towards him has been so terrible. I think everything they've said is wrong. I've looked into it. I've examined it, and I think it's all wrong. And I think the manner in which they go about presenting their case has been extremely unprofessional, and that's an understatement. So I think it's going to be a very well-deserved vindication, and it's nice to see justice being done. And so roll on May the 1st.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's next week, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be joined by Gary Heseltine on the show. He'll be coming on to talk to me here live for 2 hours, so I can't wait for that one. Now, Ben, let's shift gears a little, shall we? Because something else that we've both spoke about in the past, and we're going to speak about again here tonight, is Cern. Now, I've always promised the listeners, I would only go back to Cern when there's new stuff to talk about, because It would be easy for me to make video after video after video, pumping out information about CERN that really we already know. And I could add bells and whistles and woo to it, but it really wouldn't change a thing. However, then this story came along and talk about something new to talk about, because this here is the Future Circular Collider. We're getting a look at CERN in the future, and it's massive. Ben, what's your thoughts on this one, man? Because I know that you've weighed in on this on your own site as well.
This was astonishing, yeah, especially after the Large Hadron Collider at CERN was actually opened up and it was launched. And you and I have both covered this. You've had Anthony Patch on your show. We both discussed this and things like that. I've done a couple of videos about it. This was to be the last word in basic particle accelerators. This huge 17-mile circumference particle accelerator was told by all people, all the enthusiasts, that this would be able to uncover the deepest secrets of the universe. And indeed, it completed the standard model of particle physics by finding the long sought-after Higgs boson. This is something that was theorized in 1964 by Dr. Peter Higgs, but not located observationally until the LHC did it in 2012. But there's an awful lot of things that I think the LHC was hopefully going to find and hasn't. There's still a lot of mysteries, such as dark matter, dark energy. What is gravity? Even these simple things like what is gravity? These questions have not been answered yet. And so I think the hope was that CERN would do it, and it hasn't. So guess what? They want to build a bigger particle accelerator. And this is, when I say bigger, it's bigger by a long way. The Future Circular Collider is going to be 62 miles in circumference. So that's twice the length of the Channel Tunnel. It's going to be a huge tunnel, and there's going to be massive machinery needs to be designed and installed. It's going to cost about £20 billion.
Well, do you know what I find interesting right off the bat, Ben? And it's the fact it's this 62 miles, 100-kilometre ring that CERN are proposing. And if we go to China, they're building a super collider as well, right? And out of all the different dimensions and circumferences that it could be, guess what theirs is going to be as well?
33 miles.
62 miles, 100 kilometres, exactly the same size. Now, I used to get excited when they were talking about releasing energies of 10 tera electron volts, because that's where we could literally have strangelets formed, where they were literally causing portals to form to other dimensions. This one here, by comparison, from what I was just seeing a moment ago, it could operate up to 70 tera electron volts. So that's 7 times the energy that they've already got happening just now, and they're already ripping holes in the veil. Yeah. Where does this end, dude?
Well, this is a big question, because of course Dr. Walter Wagner was saying from the start, he said that the LHC might be dangerous, it might create these strangelets and create strange stars and micro black holes and things like this. He said this about other particle accelerators like the HRIC in the Brookhaven National Laboratory in Long Island, New York. And of course now we have the possibility of an even bigger one. And they're going to, how much longer are they going to keep building bigger and bigger particle accelerators? And I'm sure Professor Brian Cox is saying, "Oh, let's have a bigger one. But why? Are they going to find the answer that way? Or is it possible that they have a darker agenda involved? And you mentioned ripping holes in the veil. We've talked before on this program about the Mandela effect, which is becoming more and more common. And the very strange symbolism at CERN, the statue of Shiva.
You see, that's where a lot of our suspicions arise from, Ben. It's not as if we're just plucking them out of thin air. You've got Shiva, the god of destruction and creation. You've got the scientists themselves talking about creating portals to other dimensions. You've got them holding a key. And when you look at the location that CERN is built on, it's Apollo's temple, basically the bottomless pit. And they're stood there with a key saying they're going to be opening portals to other dimensions. We're taking it from their own it's from their own words, from their own actions. And I wonder, did they find out something with the LHC that has led them to do the calculations and think, right, for what we're trying to achieve, be it opening a constant portal to another dimension, a Stargate, for lack of a better term, do they need this bigger ring Have they figured out the calculation? They need that 70 tera electron volts to do what they're after. Because that's the only way I can think they can justify doing this.
Well, I mean, they're talking about spending £20 billion and building for about 30 years to actually build this thing.
People now, freezing on the streets, and yet we're throwing 30 billion into smashing particles together.
I know, it's incredible. It's like it seems that they may be, as we suspected, that the LHC is being used for something other than what we've been told it is. The actual experiments being done might have another purpose, and as you mentioned, penetrating the veil, God knows what, going into the pit and things like that.
I think it's more appropriate at times. You know, I love science. Everyone knows I'm a geek. I don't take away from the science, but at the same time as this is a science experiment, it's a massive magic ritual.
Yes.
It truly, truly is. And talk about a magic circle, Ben.
Well, sadly, the circle is a common feature in all kinds of pagan monuments. You have like circles everywhere. There's the circular standing stones. There's the Shiva statue you mentioned, which was actually a gift from the nuclear power laboratory, the Bose laboratory. Bose was a colleague, he's an Indian guy, colleague of Einstein's. But they haven't just put it in a museum somewhere. They've shoved it right in the middle of the actual ground in private place. I mean, it's weird. And there's the 666 in the logo and things like that. It's like, I think they may be doing this in order to achieve something on a alchemical level. It's not just about smashing particles and finding out what gravity is.
You see, this is the
thing. They
wanted
to change something in the universe.
Glad you brought that up. And you think about it, you know, the special run, I think 2 years ago, they were literally colliding ions of lead and ions of gold. Lead and gold, that's usually the kind of talk that's reserved for alchemy, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's them kind of tipping their hat. That's when the magic spell goes into overload, overdrive, the end of each run. And of course, right now, it's closed. They're upgrading the magnets, etc., so that when they come back in 2022, I think it is, they'll have even more luminosity, more collisions per second. The mind boggles what they're truly getting up to there.
It is, and I mean, we know that this has some kind of effect because there's the fact that the unidentified lying object actually appeared inside the machine, which is actually completely sealed off, and there's a vacuum within this vessel, this huge 17-mile circular ring, which is harder than outer space. It's the hardest vacuum in the universe, and within it, an object appeared. It just appeared. I mean, this isn't like getting a grain of sand in your camera when you're taking photos on the beach. This is a hermetically sealed vessel, which nothing can get into, yet they found an object in there. The only way it could have got in there is if it's come through some kind of portal from another universe.
You see, I remember that story, and, you know, I think there was a kind of tongue-in-cheek element to it as well, the way it was written, because it was talking about how they know this object's there, and it's not there, but they can't have a look at it. And it was almost like they'd taken the language from Schrodinger's cat, and they were almost having fun with the quantum side of this machine. But that's what I took from it, aside from the fact that you're bang on. How's anything getting into this vacuum-sealed chamber, this tube? It just doesn't make any sense at all, unless they're hinting at the fact that they are opening portals to other dimensions. It is a bit more like a Stargate than maybe some of us want to appreciate. And I watched a TV show called 12 Monkeys. Obviously, the movie's quite famous. But in the TV show, Ben, they literally have a particle accelerator. They've cut off one of the pipes, and they've put a chair right in the middle where the stream of particles go, and that is how they achieve their time travel. Hidden in plain sight. Now, whether that's going on at Cern in one of the experiments, I don't know. It certainly could be. And we're right to be suspicious because of all the woo that comes out of there. And you mentioned Mandela effect. Now, it seems to me that's really gone hand in hand with the progression and the ramping up of the energies at CERN. You know,
it was not reported, and it was reported by Fiona Brew, but only when this machine started. Now, the scientists are doing this. They seem to have a very sort of they shrug their shoulders at what they're doing. But I mean, could it be that even if they're not all of them are deliberately trying to destroy the world, they're being very irresponsible. They may be playing with forces that they don't understand and might have effects that they can't predict.
See, that's what I think. That's where I think we're entering the realms of when you're talking about creating energies only seen after the Big Bang. When you're talking about unlocking the dimensions that we really struggle to conceptualize in our mind's eye at the best of times, do we really know what we're playing about with? And even if we do know what we're playing about with, do we have a full handle on the consequences, the knock-on effects, i.e. the Mandela effects that could occur? We're going into new realms of science here, where even the rules of physics, the laws of physics as we know them, they probably don't exist, Ben.
Well, this could have effects not only on our planet, but on the entire universe. This could change our planet and change the universe. And maybe that's the intention. Maybe they do want to actually alter the laws of physics and alter our place within the multiverse, our universe we live in within the multiverse. And I mean, if they're doing that, I'm assuming it's for some kind of reason that doesn't necessarily benefit us.
It's all for the greater good, Ben. It's for the greater good. Don't you worry about it. It's all for our security.
Oh, yeah. The New World Order will be a wonderful thing. Yes, every loyal citizen will be safe. I mean, they always justify it to themselves, though, Kev. Every single tyrannical regime, including the New World Order, has justified what it does. It says we're doing it. We're motivated by good intentions.
We're doing it for the children, Ben. We're doing it for the children, man. Yeah, you gotta love the children.
Every time they've done it, they say, "Well, yeah, but we only want to do good here." And this could be what's happening now. I mean, I'm not saying that Professor Brian Cox knows anything about it. He seems to know almost nothing about anything, actually, apart from his specialised subject.
Yeah, he was on Joe Rogan the other day, and
Joe
Rogan actually out-scienced Brian Cox because they were on about quark gluon plasma, and Joe was talking about how this was like the heaviest substance known in the universe, and Cox was kind of shaking his head, going, "No, I don't think so." So your man Rogan brought it up on the screen. It turns out it's only Brian Cox's own friend that Rogan was quoting. So he doesn't even have a clue about the stuff he thinks he talks about.
That's why they made him a TV star, didn't they? He's got a big ego.
He's a pop star, wasn't he? He was from D-Ream. Things Can Only Get Better. All that jazz. I remember that tune.
Yeah, used by Tony Blair on his election campaign. I assume they gave him permission for that.
Don't mention him on here. He's right up there with Prince Philip, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's like the Sith Lord, Darth Vader himself, man.
He is. Well, I mean, this is... There's a film actually called The Mist. It's actually based on a Stephen King novella, which I do recommend you watch, because Stephen King has, I think, is like a lot of authors. He often taps into currents maybe that other people can't necessarily reach. He does it subconsciously through inspiration. And it's a story about a town, just a little remote village beside a lake, which suddenly fills with this very, very thick mist. And it turns out there's a secret government laboratory nearby, which has actually been doing experiments to make holes into other dimensions through the dimensional void into another universe. And what comes out of this void, of this portal, are horrible creatures, really mean, evil-looking creatures. It's a very, very good film. Excellent horror movie. It's a horror. It's very scary.
There's actually a series as well that was done recently, Ben, the last couple of years. It was like 12 episodes, based on the same book as well. But yeah, very interesting, very good. And definitely ties in with a lot of the stuff we speak about here on the show. Military experiments and things like that. Other dimensions, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the Twilight Zone is actually going to be making a comeback on April the 1st. And they ran one of the promos during the halftime Super Bowl show. And it was talking about the fact that we're in this dimension and other dimensions at the same time. It showed you the Super Bowl stadium full to the gunnels with people, everyone cheering, and boom, empty in the next kind of frame. All dimensions going on at once. So I think it's going to be absolute manna from heaven for people like us. And we'll get so much material to talk about from that one show alone.
Did you know that the Super Bowl, of course, is American football. It's a game that Americans play and nobody else. But the advert slots on the halftime break are so expensive, and they're always something special. They always have new adverts and unusual adverts. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Now, during one of them a few years ago, this was just after the LHC started, there was an advert for Mophie batteries for mobile phones. It's, if you look at it, it's really very disturbing. You see basically the end of the world, a very sort of surreal end of the world where all the laws of physics break down, all the laws of reality fall apart. And it's, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like things just transform and change in all kinds of weird, warped ways, almost like a very extreme version of the Mandela effect.
Yeah, and then, it used to be kind of like, I used to like to go in and analyse what was going on in the halftime shows and things when it came to the Super Bowl. Halftime shows been quite tame the past couple of years, but yeah, usually, the halftime ads as well, always good for hiding things, programming.
Yeah, check this one out, because you can still get it on YouTube. And it cuts to a scene where there's God. Now, God is played by this guy who looks a bit like Morgan Freeman, so like the Morgan Freeman who played God in the Bruce Almighty film. And he's sort of looking at his mobile phone. His mobile phone's gone flat. The battery's gone flat. God doesn't use a Mophie battery, so his mobile phone's gone flat, and the world is now ending. It's quite funny, I suppose, but it's also extremely creepy.
Yeah.
Do check that out on YouTube. That was a few years ago, the launch of the halftime Super Bowl ad on TV. It's one of the most expensive and exclusive TV adverts ever. And it's this weird kind of apocalypse, which is very Cern-like in its nature.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we started talking about Cern here. Of course, that Goddard tunnel that isn't a million miles from Cern as well. Oh, yeah. That had a really weird opening where it had giant babies, and it was very reminiscent of the 2012 London Olympics, some of the creepy symbology we've seen there. But we'll be back on the other side. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go with my good friend Ben Emlyn-Jones. Don't go anywhere, folks. More on the way. Number 2 is upon us already. Where does the time go? It flies when you're having fun. And that's what happens when I join forces with Big Ben Emlyn-Jones, one of my favourite researchers, authors and public speakers coming out of the UK. Why is he one of my favourites? Because he covers all of the topics that I like to listen to personally. And I know it resonates with a lot of you out there as well. And being cut from the same cloth, so to speak, we look at a lot of the same stories. Doesn't mean myself and Ben agree on absolutely everything. In fact, we probably disagree on a lot of things. However, we come together, we share our views, our opinions, which are as relevant as any other person listening to this tonight. And I think we get closer to what's going on in this mad world. So before we go back to Ben, let me hurriedly go across the country to the Kingdom of Fife and our main man, Johnny Whistles. And Johnny, I'm going to get you on camera on my recording thing in a moment. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, Kev. Thanks very much. Yeah, and great to see Ben. And it's even better to hear that his event went really well. So that's good. But
thanks, Johnny.
I have to actually listen to Daryl here. He's said, try not to swear tonight, Whistles.
I know, Johnny. What
I
happened?
really do. I honestly really do apologise for that. I came back thinking we were still on a break, and it's something that I've never, ever done before. And I apologise to anybody that's offended.
But Johnny, the thing is, right, here's the kind of behind-the-scenes chat that me and Johnny have. Me and Johnny swear once every 5 words. It's what Scottish people do. But somehow we've prided ourselves by being very professional on air. And that's why it was so out of place. I'm thinking, did I honestly hear Whistles slipping up? But it happens from time to time. And like you said, I'll second that, Johnny, the fact that we didn't mean to offend anyone. And I know for a fact, Johnny Whistles, definitely that was a slip of the tongue. Don't you worry about that, my man.
Cheers, mate. It's cool. It's just, as you say, Kev, to have that perfect record and never swearing, do you know what I mean? And then I've just gone and ruined it.
Not at all. Not at all, Whistles. You couldn't ruin anything. But Ben, let me come back to you, my good friend, because we're going to talk now about alien radio signals. What's going on, man?
Well, this is really interesting, Kev. Now, we talked before about some of these because I actually did an entire presentation about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. and the fact that sometimes strange things do come from space in terms of electromagnetic transmissions that are picked up by radio astronomers. And we've talked before, I think, about the WOW signal and the little green men and things like that were found before the little green men was actually explained as a pulsar. It's a new kind of star, but the WOW signal was never ever explained. It's a very, very strange thing, and something strange similar has happened again. Now, this was a series of fast radio bursts, and there's been a few of these over the years called the Lorimer bursts, for example, which are literally, as you just heard, they are bursts of very, very high intensity electromagnetic radiation from certain spots within the universe. They last a short time and then they're gone. They just disappear. And some new ones have been discovered by the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment in Canada called CHIME. And they have, it's coming from an area of the universe in several different places, in several different locations, sometimes 1 billion light years apart. Now, what they are, nobody knows. Some people have suggested they're colliding neutron stars, but they're extremely powerful. They're extremely powerful. No one, it's like, there's not been nothing like this since the Big Bang in terms of intensity and power. So what could possibly generate something so powerful? And several people have explained that this could be a source of a product of intelligence. It could be a product of intelligence. And several astronomers have denied that. They've said, well, they're coming from lots of different places within the universe, sometimes 1 billion light years apart. So are the aliens, by coincidence, sending out the same signals? And I thought, well, possibly they have some kind of intergalactic empire. Who knows? Maybe they've travelled because they've been around a lot longer than us and they've been able to travel. I don't know, but it's clear there's a lot of mysteries out there. This could turn out to be something like the little green men did. It turned out to be a pulsar. But then again, it might not. It may remain a mystery until the possibility of extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence is considered. So I'm excited. I'll be watching this story, Kev.
Absolutely. And Whistles, I'll bring you in right here just now because I know you're interested in all things space and alien related. What do you make of this stuff, man?
Yeah, these signals, Kev, one thing I always wondered about them is when they've looked for them in the exact same place where the signal came from, and they've done that obviously quite a lot and never found anything. I always wondered, with the vast distances that signal is travelling, would it not be interrupted in some way by some unknown force sent in another direction, maybe in our direction, and we got it instead of maybe going farther out into even the gas planets and beyond? Do you know what I mean? Could we have got that maybe accidentally, these signals?
What say you, Ben?
It's possible, but this is not something that's actually a piece of communication with us. It may be a piece of communication of a type we're not familiar with, that we're picking up by accident or picking up on it just as a part of a relay. Who knows? I mean, I think we're dealing with something that's possible we haven't even considered yet. There may be something out there. The reason it's so mysterious is we've just not thought of what they might be. I mean, it's sometimes quite humbling, but they may not even be aware of our existence. Not because they're stupid or they've never travelled here. It may be that the psychology of whatever entity is behind this may not be able to comprehend us. We talked before, I think, about the book Rendezvous with Rama, which is a really, really good science fiction story by Arthur C. Clarke. And we talked about this in relation to the Oumuamua situation. And we don't have to go through all that again, but I mean, where's Oumuamua now? It's past the orbit of Saturn. Well, in the book Rendezvous with Rama, this strange spaceship emerges, comes from the solar system, and it heads in towards the sun through the solar system, just like Oumuamua did. Then it simply refuels at the sun, and then it heads back out into space again. Doesn't take any notice of the Earth at all. So it's possible the aliens are like that. It's possible. Well, I say aliens. I don't mean like the Giorgio Tsoukalos memes, but it could be maybe a source of universal consciousness of some kind. Maybe God, if that's the correct word for saying things like that. Because what is God other than the consciousness of the universe?
Well, last night, myself and Johnny, we got talking about black helicopters and men in black, and we were saying that sometimes these are really kind of common around the whole abduction scene. Now, it seems to me that the whole alien abduction thing, I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong here, because I can't say I've looked religiously or gone really deep on it. But it's almost as if that whole abduction kind of thing, it was something that happened maybe years ago. Not so much nowadays. I don't hear so much about it now. What do you think, Ben?
Oh, it's still going on. It's still going on. It's not covered in the media as much as it used to be, and when it is covered, it's a joke. It's treated as a joke. But alien abduction seems to be something perennial, actually. It seems to be something that has always happened to us and probably always will. People used to call it different names. They didn't call it aliens. They called it being spirited away by the fairies in the past. Now we call it alien abduction, but it's essentially the same thing. After Betty and Barney Hill came forward in 1961, that's really when it made mainstream, when this particular couple bravely spoke out about their own experience. But since then, there are large numbers of reports of happening. It's still going on at the moment. The people who probably don't come out perhaps as often as they used to and keep their mouths shut because of the way the media ridicules it, which may be why there's all this ridicule in the media now. It's still happening. People, I know there's some people privately, I can't talk about publicly, I know, who are involved in this, including the person who lives near Sandringham House, we talked about earlier in the program. But now the men in black do pop up whenever these sorts of things happened. I mean, when I was in Denmark, one of the cases I talked about was the strange case of the Solway Firth spaceman. I don't know if you've heard about that. It's not far from where you are.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The famous photograph which shows a big white alien in it behind this little girl's head. Now, that was taken in 1964. Now, the father of that little girl, Jim Templeton, when the photograph entered the media and it was shown across the world, it became an international sensation. He was approached by some strange people in dark suits driving an unusual black car who basically asked him a lot of searching questions. And they drove him to the Brough Marsh where this photo had been taken. And they were very intimidating and bullish. And they eventually left him there and drove away. But they asked him all kinds of questions like, where was the second alien? Did you see the second alien? And that's weird because there was only one alien and no one saw it at the time. It only appeared on the film afterwards. It's like they knew, the Men in Black knew. And according to some people, we were talking earlier about who Men in Black might be. According to researchers such as John Keel and Nick Redfern, a lot of these Men in Black encounters are not like government agents. They are actually in some way connected to the UFO phenomenon itself. Like they appear to almost be wearing some kind of fake skin, like they're not real humans. They seem to act very strangely when they encounter normal things in the human world. They drive cars which are not registered, so they're very often old-fashioned cars, but the cars look pristine. They look like they've just come off the line that morning. Things like that, which makes me indicates they are some kind of supernatural entity. And indeed, when Jim Templeton had his particular experience with the Men in Black, this was many, many years before the concept of Men in Black entered popular culture. So it's unlikely he would have made this up. But what he experienced is so similar to what other UFO witnesses and other abductees have experienced since then. So I'm very, very interested in this case. And there's this picture you can see now is that looks to me very, very weird.
But that's before Photoshop and all the good things that I like to try and debunk stuff with nowadays. And it's not so much that I'm skeptical of, the more modern images, stuff like that, but it's just that it's so easy for anyone to kind of mock something up. But this thing here, when you can see the scratches almost on the old photograph kind of style there, that'd be hard to fake.
I'll tell you what, it'd be far to fake, even in today's world.
And the fact that they're mentioning the second alien, where's that coming from, guys? Johnny, I mean, that's another level to this altogether, right?
Yeah, that second alien, Kev, always got me. That was the thing that was fascinating, actually more than the photo, because it tells you that somebody else knew that they were there. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing about that. So that second alien, I wonder where the the other alien went. You know what I mean? Where
Well,
did they go? Were they already here, or are they still even here, Kev?
Well, do you know, Johnny, there were 2 aliens spotted in Australia, or two creatures that looked exactly the same as the ones in the photo, were spotted at the Woomera test range where the Blue Streak nuclear missile was being test fired. And that was at the very, very same moment on the other side of the world that this photo was taken. And that I thought was very strange. And you know that Kodak, they actually are claiming this is a Kodak film. They say that that's genuine, and they've offered a lifetime supply of film to anyone who can prove it otherwise. Yeah. And you notice on the photograph, this would actually be hard to fake nowadays, because you may notice on the photograph there's a little strand of little Elizabeth's hair that sort of sticks up, and you can actually see that it goes in front of the creature. Now that is something that would be extremely difficult. What you get is with a fake photo, very often that would actually be going behind. You see it go behind the creature, which would indicate it's fake. But you see, the very fact they've actually got this. If that was fake, then how come the strand of hair?
They would just take that out. If that was fake, they would just take that a bit out, because it would be too hard, even at that time, to try and get rid of that hair. So
if that was like a composite image, you'd have, because we can see both underneath the strand of hair, you can see the body of the creature as well. Yeah. Now that would be very, very difficult to fake indeed. Kodak are so convinced, they've staked their reputation on this being real. Jim Templeton's, the day he died in 2011, and the whole family stuck by their story. They never confessed, even though it would have given them a lot of fame and fortune if they had confessed. You know, the I Fool the World, it's just like, it's a money spinner beyond money spinners.
There's got to be some size.
The alien autopsy,
There's got to be some size as well when you think about it. If that's standing on the ground, that's some size of entity, you know.
Well, you know, if we assume that it has the same proportions as a normal human, it's actually not standing on the ground at all. It's hovering 1.5 feet in the air.
Yeah.
And it's also leaning over so far that if it was standing, it would fall over.
Yep. That's bizarre.
Weird. Really is.
Extremely weird photograph. Very interesting piece of evidence.
So when you were over in Denmark, I mean, we talked about the Men in Black story earlier. I mean, what else were you covering when you were over there, Ben?
Well, I also spoke about the strange case of an abduction, which was very close to where I live. It's the closest I know of a major abduction, which has been publicised. Now, I say publicised. It was... there's a guy called Mike Soper who runs Contact International, which is one of the oldest UFO ufology groups in the world. It's based in Wheatley, just near Oxford. He was approached by somebody who he calls David Mann, which is not his real name. It's a very ordinary sounding name, who had been, in 1978, had been driving from Gloucester to Oxford with his wife and 2 kids in the car on his way home. And he was driving along this road, and he suddenly realised the same scenery, that all the things at the side of the road, kept passing him every time, as if he was on some kind of racing circuit. Then the car engine cut out, and this strange disc-shaped object landed in the field next to the car. And what follows is very, very similar to the Betty and Barney Hill case. It has all the classic tropes. These aliens appeared. He said they looked like normal people, except their eyes were too far apart and too big. They invited the family onto the craft. The family went. The children were separated. They were given medical examinations. The parents were shown the engine room of the spacecraft with its strange machinery and things like that. They were given a lecture about environmental destruction, the dangers of nuclear power, things like that. And then they were basically let go. And they forgot everything. They realised something was wrong because they were supposed to get home at 9 p.m. They got home at 12 midnight, even though there was no traffic jams or anything. And the memories came back to them slowly over the next few days. Now, skeptics claim that UFO witnesses and UFO abductees, they come forward because they're looking for fame and fortune. Well, David Mann has guarded his anonymity like the crown jewels.
I tell you what, if that's somebody's big idea about becoming rich and famous,
it must be
back to the drawing board.
This guy is absolutely determined no one will ever know who he is. I don't even know if he's still alive. But the reason is because he was a lecturer at Oxford Brookes University. In those days, it was called the Oxford Polytechnic. And he was terrified for his professional reputation. So Mike Soper has never revealed his real name. And he's got this amazing story, which sounds extremely convincing. But the guy's never come forward publicly to confirm it. So this goes to show, doesn't it? Well, it's true. I mean, you get called names. You made a joke. Look at Robbie Williams. Look what happened to him when he started coming out and talking about UFOs.
It's like
he was made a national laughing stock.
It's like people up where I'm from, right on the banks of Loch Ness. Locals that have seen the monster are very, very, very hesitant to come forward because of just this very kind of scenario. Other locals are just going to be, you're going to be the one, there's so-and-so that's seen the monster. Probably a few good whiskies that morning or something. You're going to be a laughing stock, dude. Nobody's going to be like, oh, wow, you've seen the monster. That doesn't happen.
I know. It's so different to how it's portrayed by the skeptics. I mean, everything, they say things like, oh, they're making a fortune off this. It's a big industry, isn't it? Well, anyone who tries to organise a conference or do something like that or write a book will know, if we really were into money-making scams, we'd just go and sell dodgy double glazing and things like that, like everyone else does. It's complete nonsense. This is real. It's like I was saying earlier. Why, if the US government had a Santa Claus research project, it would last 5 minutes. They've got one that's lasted 70 years. I mean, it's just crazy. It's real. It has to be real. How many times can they keep spending money and getting people together to investigate things? And they keep coming back saying, look, this is not real.
It's like in the UK, we had Nick Pope. Everyone's heard of Nick Pope, the most infamous UFO government insider there is, right? For all he tells us. But there's got to be a new Nick Pope. The government must have people now working on these kind of things, like we were talking about earlier, the crash retrieval teams. This is the stuff that we're wanting to get in about. We're wanting to see the truth from there, but we're never going to get it.
I mean,
look at that. There was a couple in America. I've seen it today on one of the programs. The couple and their son, I think it was, looking up, and they seen this thing. I mean, it's hovering above the building, and they're all absolutely freaked out, and they're phoning everybody. Do you know what I mean? And the thing goes away, and now there wasn't just them that seen it. There was a lot of other people that were calling the cops that night. But this couple really took it to the extremes. They wanted to know what this thing was, and when they phoned the Air Force, because there was 3 F-16s that followed it after it disappeared. So they actually went to court, and they got the court to release the files, because the Air Force said that there was no planes at all in the air that night. Now, the court had made them give them the documents, and there was. But they gave it the old usual. It was just a secret training exercise.
Swamp gas, Johnny. Swamp gas.
Do you know what I mean? After going to all that, going to the court and things and thinking you're going to get an answer, and then you get hit with the old chestnut. That's okay. It was a exercise.
That is backfilling. It's putting out a fake story to make it look like this was all planned beforehand. I mean, what Gary Jones, the researcher into the Penturk event, has been told is, well, a couple of times he's made some Freedom of Information Act requests to the government. He's been sent back now, Section 26, not in the public interest, which means it's exempt. Where they have replied, they've said, well, it's okay. We were doing a military exercise at the time. Which is a bit odd when you consider that nobody knew in advance. No one was told anything. This involves several explosions, actually, that sounded like the detonation of live ordnance. One of them shook the famous Royal Glamorgan Hospital on its foundations, which is something, I mean, I know because I got involved with these sort of things at the John Radcliffe, where I was a porter, and that everyone would have to know about it beforehand. They'd have to get special permission to do these kinds of exercises in a public area. There'd be paperwork at the hospital if the hospital was involved, and there's none. So it's best not to underestimate the ingenuity of the people who do the cover-up, because they come up with all kinds of stories to explain what they were doing in ways that doesn't mean UFOs.
No, you're absolutely spot on. You truly are. I was just going to bring up your YouTube channel there, Ben, because you do live streams and things on there, right? And I want to drop this in the chat room at tfrlive.com. So where can people find that, man? Is it Ben the Reporter?
Ben the J.R. Porter.
J.R. Porter, yes.
J.R. John Ratcliffe, yeah. And it's basically linked from Hapanwo, from the Hapanwo website. There's links there, and you can see all the various videos I've made, and I cover all the kinds of subjects that Kev and I talk about with Johnny on this show. And my most recent video is a reportage of my trip to the Denmark UFO meeting. It's I hope you people enjoy it. It's I've got a very, very long, detailed video of my experiences, which include a recording of my talk. So if you want to know more about what we've been talking about, it's all in that talk.
And I see you filmed from the plane as well. Any chemtrails on view?
I was having a look, actually. I looked out for chemtrails, including the possibility of chemtrails coming from my own aircraft that I was on, which I couldn't really tell because when you're actually on the plane, you can't see much of what's going on. But I did see some coming from another aircraft that went past just below us in the other direction. I actually saw chemtrails coming out of that, and I thought, that's strange. And I did wonder that. Excuse me.
Yeah, we spoke to Matt Landman recently on the show. Love Matt Landman's work, and he's an activist out in, the west coast of the US, and he's very, very prominent on the kind of geoengineering scene. And he had shared an image over on Facebook, I believe, just recently. And it got the attention of the mainstream media, and it was an image out of Florida where blatantly there was no denying that this was like a chemtrailed sky. It was as if you could have photoshopped this, you couldn't have made it any more perfect. It had the whole grid overhead, the sun was going down, which really emphasised the spraying and the chemicals in the air, and how people are still in denial about this kind of thing. Even now when Harvard themselves, Ben, are coming out and talking about the need to geoengineer the planet. It's crazy.
They're doing it at Oxford University as well, at the Oxford Martin School. You can get a degree in geoengineering.
Loughborough University, they run a lot of geoengineering programs, I noticed when I researched it as well. Maybe not so much the military to look at there, like Ben and myself and Johnny here have found out. Always interesting to look at what the universities are actually doing with government money.
Well, that it was one of interesting experience on the plane was at one point I looked up when the plane was at its cruising altitude. I looked up and we were above the clouds and we were above the other chemtrails that were going on. And I just looked up and I saw a pure blue sky. And I thought to myself, that's the only time in years, I think, I have seen a sky like that.
Blue sky? Blue sky, you say? What is this mythical creature?
It was just to think this is what a sky always used to look like. As remember blue, as Cliff Carnicum says in his video. I looked up and I thought, it's astonishing. It was the most astonishing thing because we're just not used to seeing it. No clouds, no chemtrails. And I thought to myself, my goodness me. It's when you see the absence of this geoengineering that I think you can understand more what it is.
Absolutely. And we'll be back up very shortly. Right here on the network with the Freedom Link, so stay tuned for that. More great radio on the way, and I'm sure Joe will probably have Jimmy Jeans with him, maybe Scotty Lopez, a sprinkle of news and woo, all the good stuff with Joe coming up after the break. So then, people in the chat room over at tfrlive.com/chat, we're into the whole paranormal, the strange topics tonight, Men in Black, black-eyed children, that kind of stuff. Drop some subjects into the chat room. Myself and Johnny will keep an eye on that. And we'll try and pick Ben's brain because we're going to brainstorm it here for the last segment of the show. We're going to hit Ben with random topics. And it's not to try and catch him up or catch him out. It's because this guy is like the Library of Alexandria when it comes to conspiracy and woo. So Ben, right off the bat, one of my personal favourites before we go anywhere. Black-eyed children, dude. What's going on there?
Now that is the black-eyed children is something that's quite new. I know David Weatherly is an author who's written a book about this. It's something quite disturbing. In fact, it's one of the most disturbing of these kinds of phenomenon that we talk about. But a number of people all around the world have been reporting that they've had strange visits from creatures. I say creatures because I don't think they're human. They may well be related to the Men in Black phenomenon. Usually small children, very often, usually aged about 10 to 12 years old. They come and knock on your door. It's usually in pairs. A couple of times they appear as on their own, sometimes with sometimes more than 2 children. They'll knock on the door, you open them up, and they say, "Can I come in, please? I need to use the phone. I need a glass of water." And the witnesses then look at the child, and they notice that there's several unusual features about the child. The most obvious is that, hence the name, their eyes are completely black. And I don't mean they have black irises, as some people do, or very dark brown. The entire cornea and the whites of the eye and everything and the iris is completely black. So you can't tell where the iris begins and the white ends and things like that. And the witness then, a lot of them describe some very interesting things. It appears that they themselves go into an altered state of consciousness. To begin with, they feel an absolute terror and horror at what they're seeing, even more than you would expect from somebody encountering a child with big black eyes like that. So they're not just spooked, they are horrified and they're disgusted. But at the same time, they feel an overwhelming, almost in a kind of contradictory way, they feel an overwhelming sense of sympathy for the child and a desire to comply with the child's wishes.
Do you think there's a bit of Slender Man to this? And why I say that is almost a bit of tulpamancy. The more that they've been on the internet, the more they've kind of come into reality, so to speak. Have we given birth to the black-eyed children?
Well, there may be an element of this, because I know that Nick Redfern is saying this about the Slender Man, which started as fiction and became fact. And maybe life is imitating art in a way more than we normally expect. But I mean, I think they seem to be based on something real to begin with, but it's possible that the interest has caused the phenomenon to increase. What's interesting and very, very sinister is that the witnesses always eventually they recover from this altered state of consciousness, this hypnosis almost that the entity, the child, puts them under, and they say no when they slam the door in the child's face. No, every single witness has responded in this way, which means, frighteningly, are there some people who actually did not succeed in doing that, and they did let the child into their house, and they are not around to tell the tale? That's the worrying thing. There's been some cases where the black-eyed children have approached people in public places. Like sometimes there was a report from the United States about somebody who's locked out their car, and a black-eyed child approached them while they were standing by their car. But usually it is the home. Now, one of the people who had an encounter with a black-eyed child, after they slammed the door in their face, they ran into the lounge and looked out the window, and they saw the child walking away. There were 2 children, so they saw the 2 children walking away. Now, they thought they could peek out behind the curtains. They had like a netting in the window, so that they were basically invisible from outside. And so they peeked through a gap in the curtain, through the netting. But the moment they saw the child turned and looked at them, as if it knew they were watching them. The child knew that the person in the house was watching, even though there's no way they could have seen the person because of the netting, as I say, and the netting and the curtain. So it's almost like it was a kind of telepathic link, or they knew they were being stared at. And they turned and they looked at the window, and oh my goodness, and the witness then just ran away, ran into the back of the house and didn't come out for ages. So what are they? That's the question. Some people have suggested they are some kind of product of some kind of genetic experiment. I think it's more like they are something woo, to quote your phrase. They are something otherworldly.
Something supernatural for me.
Yeah,
there's definitely a supernatural element to it. Johnny, I think it's one of the first things we ever spoke about, right? Black-eyed children. Fascinating. Are we any closer to what they are? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so, Kev. Not until somebody catches one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to invent the black-eyed children eye pokers. They're going to be on a glove, so you could just do that with 2 fingers.
Oh,
then we'll capture one.
If we capture one, think of the views we'd get on YouTube, dude. Honestly.
Exactly.
But Ben, going to the chat room, our good friend Lynn, does Ben have any thoughts about China on the moon and the plants that they were or weren't growing up there? And I believe they were growing cotton. And I think that's almost like a proof of concept experiment. Can life survive? Can life handle being on the moon? But that's my thoughts on it. What do you think, Ben? China on the moon?
That was an odd... I think we talked about this on a previous show a little bit, but the landing of the China on the dark side of the moon is quite something. And I mean, I saw the pictures of the seed germinating, and apparently it lived for a while. Excuse me. It lived for... Was it a couple of days it lived and then it died?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I mean, we got to ask, I suppose, is that actually happening on the moon, or is it a fake experiment? I'm not sure, because there are some strange things going on in the actual secret space program, which indicates that people are already on the moon anyway, and indeed on the dark side or the far side or the back side of the moon, there are objects which appear to be artificial. There's more than 2 witnesses have spoken out about this, which indicates the secret space program has a facility there, which you'd expect, because it's 7,000 square miles of real estate and it's completely invisible from the Earth's surface. So it's the perfect place to actually put a base there, if you're an alien or if you're a secret space program, because it's close to the Earth and it's can't be detected from the Earth. So, of course, the big question is like... are China involved in the secret space program too? Are they exposing the Americans, and are they going to send back pictures of the secret bases? And the answer obviously is no. They are collaborating. This is an international global policy in place. So I'm not expecting any revelation.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all in cahoots. When they get above near Earth orbit, they're all in cahoots, folks. There's no war between these different nations then. It's a different ballgame, a different layer of the pyramid altogether. And I see something that you dropped in the chat there, Johnny, and I think Polynation was asking, Ben, have you heard anything about liquid sun theory? You know, a liquid, when you excite it, becomes a gas, which you excite again becomes a plasma. That's a liquid sun, almost. I don't know, I've not heard that one. I've not looked into it, I must admit.
I've not heard of that myself. I know there's some very, very odd things about the sun, and there's a guy called Walt Thornhill who has claimed that the sun is actually an electric arc.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, his work, I recommend it to anyone. You can get it on the Thunderbolts project, usually. And it's somebody that I listen a lot to because of my interest in. And it's just an interest. I can't say it's a belief because I can't prove it to the point where I'm satisfied. But the electric universe, I'm there on that one, Ben.
There's something very strange about the sun. For example, we were told that the surface of the sun, like the surface of the photosphere, that is the yellow ball that we can see, is 6,000 degrees centigrade. And that sounds like a lot, but the interior of the sun is 20 million degrees centigrade, and the sun's atmosphere, that is the corona, is 35 million degrees. So we're in a weird situation. It's rather like having a bonfire with a layer of ice on top of it, and another bonfire built on top of the layer of ice. It just doesn't make sense. So what's going on? How is the sun working? Is it really like a nuclear fusion reactor, as we've been told it is, converting hydrogen into helium and releasing a massive amount of energy? Or is something else going on? I don't know.
My mind always goes to Stargate Universe when we talk about the sun. Because I've always thought, the sci-fi lover in me has always thought, you know, what perfect kind of filling stations, petrol stations in the cosmos. You know, you go to a sun and you fill up your ship. You get energy from that local star. And in Stargate Universe, we've seen exactly that concept where it was able to go in and scoop some of the particles, some of the energy, some of the plasma off. I've heard people talking about the potential for this being some kind of Stargate. You know, you see strange objects at times nosediving in there, and I get it. It's like a massive kind of vacuum cleaner for small asteroids and comets and things. I get that. But then you get square objects going in and out of the sun. You get other weird stuff going on there. I don't know. It's strange. Black holes, what are a black hole? But say there are black holes, where does that come out on the other side? Does it come out on the other side? Because math says it has to. Einstein said, you know, it didn't really like the math, but it would have to. So how does that look on when it's coming out? Does it look like a sun? Is that the other side of a black hole? It's weird stuff that goes on in my mind, boys, when we're talking about the sun. It really is.
Well, there's a large number of like UFO sightings, which solar observatories have captured, where you actually see strange objects like the square ones and things that you mentioned connected to the sun by like a beam of light.
Yep.
It is almost like it's sucking something up from the sun. In Rendezvous with Rama, with the book we talked about by Arthur C. Clarke, this actually happens. The spacecraft covers itself in this sheen, this reflective silver cocoon, and it goes right into the sun, and it comes out again as if it's refueling or washing itself or something.
What I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I mean, look at it, Johnny, right? How perfect that when we have an eclipse, that moon that's just a random coming together of space dust and things just fits perfectly, absolutely perfectly in the diameter of the sun, you know? It's just, I mean, it's all by random, obviously, Johnny, right? The fact the moon just perfectly covers it and gives us that tremendous light show, you know?
It's amazing to think, Kev. I mean, not only the sun, the earth, the moon, and those particular things that line up with, you know what I mean? You get the diamond ring with the full eclipse. And another thing is where we are, Kev, in our actual galaxy. It's a pretty weird situation to be, because anywhere else in that galaxy, it's like we're in a habitable zone in our galaxy, because what they're finding out is further in, life is just absolutely hectic.
Exactly, man. This is like the beach resort of the Milky
really
Way,
is.
Ben. It's like we've got our feet up in this quadrant of space. It's like relax time, dude. It's like the kind of health spa region.
Well, you know, it's like you all know about the Goldilocks zone. The fact is
man.
that water only exists in a liquid form in a very, very narrow band of temperature between 0 to 100 degrees Celsius. And the Earth is one of the few places where this actually happens. I mean, Mars does as well occasionally, but Mars itself is very, very cold. It's colder than the South Pole. We know there's some water underneath the ice covers of liquid water underneath the ice cores of some moons of Jupiter and Saturn. But there's other weird things. I mean, Johnny mentioned the incredible coincidence of the sun and the moon being the same size on the celestial sphere, of the same apparent size, which must be a coincidence that may well not be repeated anywhere else in the universe, which means the solar eclipse which we see in the sky could literally be the only place in the universe, or the only place for billions of light years, where this actually happens. And I mean,
it's just random, Ben. Don't worry about that.
Oh yeah,
it just happens to be in the right area and the right size. Nothing to see here, dude.
I know, it's just a coincidence. Nothing to worry about, as we keep being told. But think about
it. Better odds than playing the lottery. Do you know what I mean?
It's far from that. I mean, it's like beyond that. But of course, the skeptics will never actually state, you know, what's the ceiling above which they'll stop saying coincidence.
Exactly.
Because they'll say things like, well, if I say to a skeptic, I had a debate with one. I said, well, if you knew someone who won the lottery 5 weeks in a row, would you say that was a coincidence? He says, of course not. I says, good, we're getting somewhere. Okay, where's the cutoff point? Where's the statistical ceiling above which you will stop saying these things are coincidences? And well, when it comes to the solar eclipse, I think the chances are so small. It's less than winning the lottery 5 weeks. I think it's more even than that. It's like when you think about the parameters, the sizes, the orbits, and the distances from the star and things like that. They are so precise.
I know, Ben. Sorry, I know a professor in statistics, and I was going to ask him what the statistics were for that to actually happen, to see if he could come up with a number. I wonder if I should still ask him.
You know, somebody in the chat room says we're colliding with another galaxy, and I think Andromeda, that's our closest galaxy.
Yeah.
It's 2 million light years away. So the only good news I have about this collision is the fact that I can categorically, and I don't like to be definite on anything, but nobody listening to this broadcast tonight is ever going to see that collision. None of us are going to be here. There's my prediction, and I bet you that one's right.
Doesn't matter how much roughage you eat, you're never going to live that long. The truth of the matter is, when it does happen, it won't actually be as dramatic as people think it will be.
So what do you think, though, Ben, right? We had an astrophysicist on here, Brendan Drackler, lovely guy, absolutely brilliant, and he was talking to us about the statistical chances for alien life. And it actually left me quite confident that in the universe, the vastness of it, there has to be other living, conscious entities out there, right? But what do you think? Do you think every galaxy has at least one entity, one race, one species that, those cells, whatever way that the science and the chemistry and the physics work on that particular planet come together, and over years and time, the complexity kind of builds up to the point where, well, they get their version of one of us or something else that walks and talks and hopefully makes a better steward to the planet that they come from.
Well, the Drake equation, this is the way of calculating these figures, was very interesting because the people who put it together, which included Carl Sagan in 1961, were very, very conservative in their estimates. They reduced these figures as much as they possibly could, and there's a large number of these different factors you put together. Now, if you reduce them as far as you possibly can, you still get a figure of 80 intelligent civilizations within the Milky Way galaxy. 80. And that's the very lowest estimate. The chances are there are an awful lot more than that, which indicates that life, the universe seems to be primed for life. All the different particles have exactly the right figures for producing intelligent life. Life, as we know, when it does emerge, it clings on. It's almost impossible to remove. There's life at the bottom of the oceans, in the volcanic vents where it's 500 degrees centigrade. There's life deep underground in the deepest mines. You go up to the upper atmosphere. There are bacteria in suspension, and there are literally, according to Professor Chandra Singh, there's life in space as well. It's not just a dead, cold, empty vacuum. There are hardy creatures and hardy organisms that can survive in space. So it's no wonder what his theory of panspermia means, that these just fall down onto the planets and you get life everywhere. Life just travels through the whole universe in that way. The universe itself is like a rainforest when it comes to life.
I think so.
It shouldn't be.
Some of these, we talk about planets having life. Do you know what I mean? But there could also be life on the moons as well. Do you know what I mean? Because some moons are more habitable than the actual planet itself.
Absolutely. Johnny, there's a movie right now on Netflix called I.O. That's one of the moons around Saturn, I believe. And it's about, having to leave the planet here to go and inhabit one of those moons. You've also got one called the Titan, and that's something about the birth of a new species, Titan, Homo erectus or something they call it. And that's basically where they start splicing our genetics to the point where we're able to breathe in nitrogen, because that's what's on this particular moon up around Saturn. So I'm with you, Johnny. I think, the moons are probably going to be the way that we go out and create colonies, and probably the best chance of us finding life. And again, look how random that makes our planet then, Ben. Because our moon certainly wouldn't appear to be conducive to life, whereas the planet here, Goldilocks zone, perfect.
Yeah, and what Johnny was talking about, what you were talking about, is absolutely true. And indeed, the Cassini probe actually has found several organic chemicals on moons around Saturn, and indeed, they've even captured water emerging from cracks in the ice that covers it. So it's like a frozen over pond. And its water shoots up into space, and the Cassini probe was detected, and the chemicals which might indicate there's life there. There's liquid water. Where there's liquid water, you can find life as we know it, Jim. So maybe it'll be like fish of some kind swimming in this ocean. Mm-hmm. And indeed,
reptilians, man, reptilians, dude.
Oh god, you never know. They may not look like anything like Earth life, or they may be related somehow to Earth life. We don't know.
It's always been a kind of a weird-looking moon, Io.
Yeah.
But as you says, Kev, that movie, June had says to me, says, there's a movie on that you might like. It's about space. I said, what's it called? She says, 10.
It does look like a 10, I suppose.
That's Io.
Oh,
All right.
honestly, brilliant. But we're almost out of time again. And of course, Ben will be back with me next month. Johnny will be back a lot sooner than next month. But Ben, any speaking engagements coming up? What can people look forward to coming from you over on the Japanwo TV?
Oh, well, I've got lots of plans coming up. I do have a couple of speaking engagements coming up in the spring, which we'll maybe talk about closer to the time. Speaking at the Swansea UFO Network and the East Anglia UFO Group. And in Swansea, I'm actually going to be talking about the subject of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence and the various things we've spoken about here. And it'll have an important update on Oumuamua. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Please get to Swansea. The dates... I'll have to I'll let you know the dates when I next see you.
I thought we would have been closer to Oumuamua truth by now. I must admit, boys.
Well, I just hope it'll turn around and just start coming back, because then no one can pretend it's like a comet then, can they?
That would absolutely kill all the other kind of theories stone dead if the thing just turned around, you know.
Yeah, I do hope it does.
Uncloaked. And I mean, I keep on telling people as well, get this image out your mind of this rock that we've all seen. Because in the end of the day, that is only an artist's impression.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be it could be metallic, it could look like a literal UFO for all we know, because we've only got that one rendering to go by. But it's programmed into our heads now. The minute you say Oumuamua, you're thinking automatically of what we've seen in that art, and it could be anything.
That's the picture that critics call the turd picture.
Yes.
Rudely.
The flying poo.
Yeah. It literally looks like flying poo. But like I said, that's not based on any observation. It's based on a concept of this as being a natural object. And we don't know what it is. All we know is it gets brighter and dimmer. We know it's got a very, very strange rotation. We talked about that on the previous show.
And it changes course. It speeds up, you know. And what better way to disguise an alien probe than just an old space rock flying through space? But we're almost out of time. Can't believe it. Johnny Whistles, I know you always love it when Ben comes on the show, man.
Yeah.
Liquid
Great
Sun theory as well. I'm going to have to take a look at Liquid Sun theory, see what's been said there. Make him back, talk about that tomorrow night. And Johnny, I hope you'll be able to join me for hour number 2 tomorrow. It'll just be myself, yourself, maybe a bit of Jimmy Jeans. We'll try and rope in some Joe Joseph. Who knows what's coming along the way? And then this Saturday, I'm going to be doing a live stream with Nano Girl over on YouTube for everyone out there. So that'll be 12:30 in the day on the West Coast, and that's 3:30 on the East Coast, and 8:30 over here. And of course, if Johnny can find some time and rip himself away and barricade the bedroom door, we might just get him on the live stream as well.
I'm going for my dinner in St Andrews on Saturday.
You see, that's the joys of being the king of Fife, eh? Never a dull moment being the king of Fife, Whistles.
Your Majesty.
Yes, indeed. Johnny, I have to ask you, watching Oak Island this season, have you caught up yet?
4 episodes in, Kev.
Oh, my word. How good is it, Johnny? Can't wait for it to finish.
Fantastic.
So we can do a show on it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but Ben, I think we introduced you to the whole subject of Oak Island. Dude, it is off the charts this season.
It's taking a new form. It's
rewriting history. It really,
will they actually
is.
find the things they're looking for there? I mean, it's
they
great
found
they do.
Yeah, they found things already that have never been found before this season. That's as much as I'll say.
Yeah.
Because
I reckon it's a Knights Templar colony. It's from the Knights Templar. That's my theory.
Well,
I can't say anything.
Okay.
Johnny Whistles. And of course, you know, folks, that's how special we are here on KBS. We don't just talk about the Knights Templars. We've literally got a descendant of the Templars here, John St. Clair.
Oh, yeah.
St. Clair, folks. And if you do watch Oak Island, that name is going to be kind of jumping out at you right away. Johnny knows what's hidden over there on Oak Island. And, of course, my stepdad, he seems to know what's going on over there as well. Just nonchalantly drops it into the conversation one day. But for another night, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of here. Joe Joseph on the way, and wherever you are, make it TFR.
And dinna touch that dial.